Hello my friends, I am the Synodic Scribe, your curator of all things lore, and with the media tour finally being out and about and everyone talking about it, I felt like it was time for me to throw in what I've learned about the new locations, story, and jobs of Dawntrail from the media tour itself. Unfortunately, I was not invited, so if anyone was expecting me to bestow pearls of lore, wisdom from Yoshibi himself, unfortunately I do not have any of those, but that has more or less allowed me to piece together little bits and pieces of lore we can theorize or perhaps expect to see within Dawntrail coming later this month. And the first video in this series is going to be about the two new jobs, Viper and Pictomancer. So if any of you are worried about spoilers, now is the time to step away. I will be speaking about things that, well, you kind of had to have played Endwalker to fully understand and appreciate. But with the warning out of the way, let us continue. Of course, this isn't going to be the whole picture. When it comes to writing and lorecraft, the devil is in the details. We won't have all the details until we actually get to play the job quests and hear the history and profession from the voices of those who have walked that path. But for those of you who are wondering if these jobs are aesthetically your cup of tea, well, we should at least be able to take care of that here and now. We'll begin with the job that I called out a while ago, Viper. So, what is a Viper in the lore of Final Fantasy XIV? To fully appreciate and understand what a Viper is, it's more accurate to look at them and call them a hunter. And when I say hunter, I do not mean they simply hunt down your traditional animals and beasts, because honestly, any job can do that to varying degrees of success. A Viper specifically hunts creatures that are more or less larger and stronger than them, beyond the scope of nature, beyond the scope of their origins and their blueprint. Things that have become threats to not only civilization, but innocent people just trying to mind their own business and live their lives. A Viper acts as the vanguard between the most aggressive and dangerous parts of life and nature, protecting civilization from what would have otherwise rolled over and destroyed them ages ago. But where did this philosophy come from? Simply put, the Viper, or their namesake, comes from the concept of something infinitely smaller and weaker than another creature, somehow still having the capacity to be just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than the things that are larger and stronger than them. Much like how the fangs of a Viper can bring down large and powerful animals, the blades of the job Viper are made to cut down and bring low creatures that one man or woman might otherwise have been easily slain by. Specifically, a Viper was described as being a hunter that goes after preternatural creatures, and preternatural simply means any creature that goes beyond the scope of nature. It is not entirely natural anymore, and technically you could classify Auspice, the sentient creatures from the Far East, into this category, but that does not only mean Auspice. Preternatural means anything that's beyond the scope of what nature intended, and there are a lot of creatures within Final Fantasy XIV that fit this description. Another example of preternatural creatures would be the chimeras and abominations created by the Allegan Empire. Another example would be any sort of normal animal or creature in nature that has somehow, usually by some kind of etheric stimulation, grown or become empowered to become much more than it ever should have been. More powerful, more aggressive, more dangerous. A good example of this would be the Colibri, that was much larger and aggressive than normal in the quest where you finally get to meet Uklamat for the first time. It is a Viper's job to hunt down and cull these types of creatures in order to not only keep the natural balance safe, but to also protect innocent individuals as well. So my friends, if the idea of becoming a huntsman from Monster Hunter or a ranger from Dungeons & Dragons inspires you, then I would recommend giving Viper a try, at least to see if you enjoy the playstyle. Because if you choose to make Viper your new main, then you are choosing for your Warrior of Light to have a more intimate understanding of nature, the natural order, and the power of those things within your character. But, as I said, this is only the beginning, so who knows how much more we'll learn about Viper in the future once we get a better understanding of their history and abilities. Next up, of course, we have the colorful Pictomancer. I know a lot of my artist friends are excited about this job because, well, I guess they get to be artsy within Final Fantasy XIV now as well. But what of the history of Pictomancy, and why haven't we heard about it until now? Let's begin with its origin. The idea or spell school that is known as Pictomancy is said to have begun with an individual called Archon Realm. Archon Realm is an individual who existed back during the tail end of the 5th Astral Era during the War of the Magi. That might make some of you confused, as anyone who's watched my channel understands that the Archons are mostly known for being Sharlayan, and Old Sharlayan didn't come into existence until the beginning of the 6th Astral Era, and you would be correct. However, the term Archon did not begin with Old Sharlayan. In fact, it began with the original 12 Archons during the 5th Astral Era. The 12 original Archons during the 5th Astral Era were men and women considered to be very wise and powerful and skilled in their own rights for different reasons. And the reason the 12 Archons are remembered so fondly is because they scattered throughout Eorzea and the continent of Aldenard to make sure as many people survived the coming calamity of water before it happened. The most famous of the 12 Archons to many players is Njunkref, the Rogadin mage who created a ship and used it to gather and carry as many people as he could to safety, only for it to be marooned in Girabania. He traveled with these people westward to the island that we now know as Old Sharlayan. So, Njunkref, the founder of Old Sharlayan, was one of these original 12 Archons, and Archon Realm was one of the 12 as well. After going through all the notes I was able to collect, I couldn't find specifically where she went and how she helped, but we can deduce that she did help to some degree. Otherwise, her skills and abilities wouldn't have been remembered. And of course, what she's most remembered for is her skills with Pictomancy. So that means we have another unique spell school that was created during the 5th Astral Era during the War of the Magi. So we can place Pictomancer in the same time period as, say, Black Mage, White Mage, and Scholar. From what we understand, Archon Realm used Pictomancy to great effect in order to do a variety of things, because at the end of the day, Pictomancy is essentially a watered-down version of creation magic. Yes, you heard me correctly. Creation magic, the same type of magic that the ancients themselves used during the heyday of their civilization. Now, of course, a Pictomancer is very limited with what they're able to create because, of course, their creations look very cartoony, they don't last very long, and they're not as powerful as original creation spells. But they do follow the same principles. Essentially, a Pictomancer is able to imagine what they see in their mind's eye and project it into reality through their craft. Simply put, if they can envision it, they can create it. And believe it or not, that's exactly how the ancients used creation magic during the peak of their civilization. You see, while the ancients may have all worn similar robes and masks, that was more of just a mutual affirmation, so to speak. Because what the ancients did to celebrate their individuality was create, was to imagine and build things that no one else could have built with their own magic. Some ancients would create music, stories, and architecture. while others would create spells, creatures, and terrain. The ancients celebrated their individuality through creativity, and a Pictomancer is able to do the same thing. Using their spells to create temporary incantations, creatures, and terrain hazards to essentially change the flow of a battlefield or delight those that are watching. Indeed, I personally theorize that Archon Realm not only used her Pictomancy to great effect in dealing with dangerous things, but I wholeheartedly believe she may have also used her craft to soothe the hearts and minds of those that were under her protection during the height of the Sixth Umbral Calamity. So my friends, if the idea of playing a job that has roots within the most magic-prone era of Final Fantasy XIV history intrigues you, then I would definitely suggest giving Pictomancer a try, especially if the idea of following in the footsteps of the ancients and using your imagination to will things into being also intrigues you. But of course, that's all we have for now. Once we get our hands on Dawntrail, I'll be able to go into much greater detail after understanding more of the job quests, and of course, we may have to wait until another book or publication releases more data on these jobs for me to do a full in-depth video, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Maybe I'll try to make a job video for them before such a time. Who knows? But that's enough about me rambling for now. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, my friends. Does understanding the aesthetics or history of these jobs intrigue you to try them in Dawntrail, or were you simply going to play it anyway because you just like the playstyle? Make sure to let me know your thoughts, and if you want to see more about these jobs' lore when the expansion finally comes out and I'm able to get my hands on some more data. But this will be the first video covering what to expect from the lore of Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. Please subscribe and share with your friends if you're looking forward to more of this content in the future, and as always, stay safe, my friends. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more content. It's a simple button click for you, but I appreciate it more than you know. And as always, I'd like to thank my patrons currently on screen: Amina Viltaria, Slippers, Nanama, Naraya O'Meara, Potato, Sinalv Bagel, Cizani, and Travan Shea. If interested, you'll find links to my Discord, Twitter, and more down in the description. But above all else, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Class dismissed.